Welcome to Digitally Creative. I'm your host, Vincent Ferrari, and joining me this week, and I warned you this was going to happen. Well, first of all, you may notice the setting's a little different. That's because this is the first episode where I don't have to actually record over Skype or Zoom or whatever other technology we decide to use. I'm actually recording this in person because this week I have the privilege, the honor of talking to the one and only Kathy Gannon, aka DJ Smiles from No More Games Radio. Hi, Kathy. How are you?
Hi, Vincent. I'm fantastic. How are you?
For those of you that haven't figured it out, Kathy and I are actually dating. That's the first time I've actually said we're dating. It seems weird to say that, doesn't it?
It's not just dating.
But I'm not just having Kathy on because we're dating, because that would literally be one of the weirdest things ever to just have your girlfriend on. But
True.
I've talked about what Kathy does, and I figured it would be kind of cool to just take a little bit, have a relaxing episode where we just talk about what she does, because what she does is actually pretty interesting. I'm going to give you a little background and tell the story, because this is actually a very funny story. So when we were first getting to know each other, and I don't talk about the site that we met on because it's kind of ridiculous, but I'll screw it. It's Facebook dating, which for those of you that don't know, Facebook has dating. And we were chatting, and I wanted to make plans to go out with her, and she said she couldn't because she had other plans. And she asked if she had told me or if I knew about her online radio stuff. So she tells me all this about her online radio stuff. It was great. She's like, yeah, I could actually show the conversation, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, you were telling me all about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know all about it because I do a podcast. And you're like, what? I mean, it's the weirdest thing to have in common with somebody.
This is true.
But yeah, so you've been doing an online radio station called No More Games Radio, which I actually had the privilege of doing what you guys call a power hour for.
Yes,
and
which was fantastic.
Thank you, dear. It was an absolute hoot. I had so much fun putting it together, and I know a couple of you, thank you very much, actually listened to it, so thank you. And it's so much fun.
It is fun.
You guys,
that's why we do it.
You guys do a great job. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the station and what that's about, and then tell us a little bit about how you got into it, because you don't just stumble into
online radio.
No. It's not the kind of thing that normal people stumble onto. And now, granted, neither one of us are particularly normal, but why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into it, how you discovered it, and what the station's about, all that fun stuff, so people have a little bit of background about what you do.
So, No More Games Radio was started because all of us have a love of the same band, which I will be perfectly honest is New Kids on the Block.
It's great. I love it. I love it already.
And it started because they don't play New Kids on the radio. So we decided we wanted to hear it, and we wanted to have other fans hear it, and we knew that there was a, platform for it. So we decided, why not figure out how to do it ourselves? So we created a radio station, and it started because of New Kids, but there's 12 of us, and we're all women run, and we all have a very eclectic taste of music, so we literally play everything from, we go back as far as 50s and 60s to today, metal, R&B, hip-hop, everything you could possibly think of, country music, we play it all. So that's why we started the radio station, that's how we get involved, and we do everything from the power hour that you did. We have a bunch of pre-recorded shows, and the most fun thing is our live request shows.
Of course.
Which we have almost every night of the week. We have different DJs who play different music, but we take requests through social media, and we literally do a live show for 2 hours where we talk to our listeners on air, and they send in requests, and we interact with us, and it's a lot of fun.
The first show I listened to of yours, I was like, I wanted to hear more of your music. I wanted to be familiar with it, and I'm listening, and I'm like, this is just fun. And I remember I was listening to you played Candlebox.
Yes.
You played a Candlebox song for DJ MJ? No. Who asked for the Candlebox song?
I think it was one of our loyal listeners. I don't think it was a DJ,
yeah. So she plays Candlebox, and I text her, I'm like, the only way this whole set could be any better is a little 7 Mary 3.
Yep.
Because I always associate those two bands together, because that was what I was listening to back when I was in college. And the next thing I know, I hear Cumbersome by 7 Mary 3.
Yeah.
And she says to me in text, she goes, you're lucky I like you, and I'm very good at what I do. And I'm like, all right, I like this girl. She knows her place in the world.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. Like, I've really gotten to, what gets me about what you guys do, above and beyond the online radio, because online radio is hard. Licensing, all that stuff. Thankfully, you deal with Live 365, so they handle
Yes.
all the rights clearances, which otherwise this wouldn't even be possible.
No.
But I love the way you guys really focus, almost like a laser beam, on community.
Yes.
More so than any, I mean, makers and artists, and we always talk about the maker community on this podcast. And it's a big deal to us. Like, community is basically everything. But you guys have quite an active community.
Yeah, that we do. We have quite an extensive community too, because it's not just new kids or boy bands; it's music lovers of all kinds.
Yeah.
And we have a Facebook community. Funny you say that, which is a lot of fun, and we put in a lot of effort into making that interested and interactive. Interaction is my favorite word. All of the girls at the station make fun of me, but I think it's a big deal, and that's what people love about us, is because we interact on social media as much as we like on air and all that stuff, and we interact with other collaborators and other content creators in the same genre, and we bring them into the station. They've all done shows for us. We do shows for them with other podcasts and stuff, and that's the most important thing to us, is all the friends that we've made and the relationships and promoting that.
Well, the thing that you have, that we have as small content creators, is we have the ability to make it a two-way conversation with our fans and our audience and our communities. And I think the more you engage in that, the better. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a message from someone who's listened to the podcast and gone, "Oh, that was so helpful, man." Or something like, I was in a funk and you kind of dragged me out of it. Like, you hear that and it's like, I love the tagline for the station. We give musical hugs.
Yep.
And it's just like, because nostalgia is a powerful thing.
That it is.
And you guys are leaning on that, but in a positive way. It's like, we're here, we're trying to transport you back to, I don't want to say a simpler time, because it's not like the 80s were like the 50s, like this super simple time.
I mean, for us at our age, it kind of was.
You're right. It's true. But yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, you stoke the nostalgia just enough, and you bring people back to a time where they were just maybe a little bit happier, life was a little simpler for them. You were a teenager in the 80s listening to New Kids on the Block.
And then we also give people the freedom to feel what they feel and like what they like, so they know to request. And we've got some great listeners that actually tailor their requests to whatever DJ's on air, because they know us and they like that. The one cool thing is, I was just watching a video, and one of our listeners said, "I love the trivia you give us every week." And I was like, what is she talking about? I don't realize all of us have our own personalities, and when we talk about music from back then, and there's certain things we know, I guess, I don't realize that other people don't necessarily know.
And that's something that struck me. So the first time I listened to you on the show, I got this impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I got this impression that you aren't just a music fan, but you are like borderline obsessed with music.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, and we talk about music all the time. In fact, honestly, in the last year of dating, I've met a lot of people, and everyone in their profile always says, and you've probably seen this too, everyone in their profile says, "Oh, I love music. I love music." And you talk to them about music, and it's like, you don't love music. Like, you're not even interested. But you and I have had some crazy conversations about music, like deep catalog, cuts that we thought we were the only ones that knew. And you guys really do, all of you.
Yeah.
And this is a credit to all of you as hosts. You all have a very good working knowledge of the source material. It's impressive.
Yeah. Well, we love music. It's what we do. And we love going to concerts, and all of us travel all year long going to different concerts of all sorts of kinds. And it's cool, because since we all know each other now, we've made friends with each other, and we literally meet up to go to concerts together.
Sure.
And it's cool. And then that's how we got to meet a lot of our listeners, because they go to the same concerts we do, and they're like, "Oh, guys, you're going to be there. We're going to be there too." So it's cool.
There's that little feeling. See, the community gets built in so many different ways. There's the community of people who listen, who feel like they're part of your life. There's the community of people who participate in the Facebook group and all the stuff, the social media stuff. And not for nothing, but, shout out to April, who on Friday it's like, my feed on Facebook is just all April.
Yeah,
and
April.
I love it.
April's fantastic. We call her Sparkle. She's the queen of the community. She runs the community. I say this all the time, how she comes up with the stuff she comes up with. She does it every single week. It's all sorts of trivia and graphics, and it's a labor of love. And she also does a weekly show on Fridays.
It's wild.
So she does both of those things, and how she does it, I will never understand. It's cool.
Her output is remarkable. I was just talking to, a couple of weeks ago, I had Corinne Blackstone on the podcast, and we talked about her output, and that she puts out three videos a week most week. And I'm like, I don't know how you're doing that. And then you look at like what April puts out, and April just owns owns my Facebook feed on Friday.
Yep.
It's like, girl.
And it's fun, and people really enjoy it.
They're
they
fun.
really love to interact.
They're fun.
The stuff, she's so creative with what she comes up with, and it's a different theme every single week. And she has all these, like, I don't know, is it 12 different things that she does at least? It's cool.
And there's recurring things that she does, and and every once in a while she'll do something fun, and it's just like, wow.
It's like the Barbie thing she did for the DJs.
The Barbie thing, the New Kids on the Block bingo, and I submitted
Yes.
a blank bingo card because I was able to check off exactly nothing. But yeah, I like the way you've created a community. You've created such a thriving, active, and engaged community that you've even had a few of the new kids themselves
We have.
send some positive vibes in and talk about you guys. And I think I think one of the coolest things that I saw was I want to say it was Danny, but you're going to know what I'm talking about when I start telling the story. When he said that, they're not playing New Kids on the radio.
Donnie Wahlberg.
It was Donnie.
It was Donnie.
It was Donnie. Okay, so Donnie literally said to them, not to the wider community, to No More Games Radio, that the kids loved that they were carrying on because they're not on the radio anymore. And what does that feel like?
It was pretty amazing. I can't lie. When Donnie Wahlberg literally says to us, "We love what you do. We want you to keep doing it. It's great. It's fabulous." He's followed us on all of our social media platforms. He reposts us when he can, and tells people, "Go listen to them. They're great." It's one of the coolest things. Like, he's one of our idols, and he's literally telling people about us. We're like, "Oh my God, how does this happen?"
I really, when I posted a couple of weeks ago on my Instagram feed, the thing about don't meet your heroes, but I've met so many of the people, and I hate using the word heroes because I think it's just kind of the wrong word. But, don't meet the people you look up to, don't meet the people you idolize. But everyone I've met in that regard has been amazing.
Yeah.
People like Jimmy DiResta and Jason Stapleton and Bob Claggett, all the people that have meant something to me in my life. I've met most of them in person, shook their hands, given them a hug, and had, a nice chat with them. And, I know how I felt when I was meeting them, and I could only imagine, like, if you could go back and tell, teenage Kathy.
My 14-year-old self who was obsessed with the New Kids on the Block.
One day you're gonna have a chat with Donnie, or one day you're gonna be at a concert and Jordan's gonna be walking by and he's gonna point at you because he knows who you are. He knows who you are.
Donnie Wahlberg knows my name.
I love it.
Not a lot of people who can say that.
I love it. I love it. It's got to be the most amazing thing.
It's literally surreal. It's the best way I can describe it. And these guys are all super sweet. I've met all of them. And they're all supportive. They all know who we are as No More Games. Like, they all have our bracelets and stuff, and they wore them on tour, which was really cool.
It doesn't seem real.
No, it's awesome, and it's nice to have the support. It's nice that they know who we are and they support us and stuff. Like, it's hard to describe. It's really, like, you get worried. I can't lie. The first time I met them, I totally cried. But they were so sweet. They were so kind.
I love you so much. You're amazing.
I did. I was such a big baby.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good, though. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice when your passions intersect. And so we've talked about your passion for music, but I have to ask because, when we started the discussion, I said that, radio, and, I consider podcasting radio. I consider what you do definitely more radio than what I do.
Right.
It's just like, where the hell do you get that from? Like,
well,
how do you, because I know you pretty well, and I know given the opportunity, you would more likely be someone who's behind the scenes than someone who's on the radio.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there's the place for people behind the scenes. TV shows have more people behind the scenes than on camera, so that's normal. How in God's name did you end up on the mic?
Well, the funny thing is my dad was a DJ, but he was a party DJ, so that's where I get my love of music. And ever since I was a little girl, I actually wanted to be a radio DJ, but I never thought it was something I could actually do. It's weird. But I stumbled across this radio station. I didn't start the station, the original station. I literally found a girl on Facebook singing songs. I'm like, who is this girl singing on Instagram? And turns out it was Amanda, who's one of our station manager, actually. she's a Jordan girl, as I am, and somehow we all tend to find each other with hashtags and stuff. You know how that works. And when she decided to start advertising that they were going back on air, because this started in 2009 and they went on a break for a while and came back in 2019, I was like, well, this is interesting. I've never even heard of online radio. So I started listening to her exclusively because she's a Jordan girl. So I was like, why not? And I was like, this is cool. And one night I was listening and she says, well, we're looking for people and you don't have to be a DJ. You can do behind the scenes stuff. We need tons of help. I'm like, I can do that. I'm home. I'm not doing anything.
Right.
So it started in 2019. And one of the first things I said to Amanda is, I'm absolutely not going to be a DJ.
Oh, that worked out great.
Clearly. So this was October of 2019. And I did. I learned the entire ins and outs of doing the radio station, social media, all that stuff. And it was cool. It's shocking how much work goes into this stuff. Obviously, you know, running a podcast is no easy thing. So I did all the behind the scenes stuff, and then they kept saying, you should try it. You've got a good voice. I'm like, no, I don't. No. And they planted the seed, and literally by April, I did my first show.
That's
and
all
I
it
was
takes.
Hooked.
That's all it takes.
Completely hooked.
Once somebody plants the seed,
Yeah.
it's over, because because even if you doubt yourself, right, the first thing that happens when somebody puts that little notion in your head, you start going, what if they're right?
And to be completely honest, I would say probably half the DJs on the station currently all said the exact same thing. We're not going to do live. And now they all do. And everybody's done pre-recorded shows.
It's kind of wild, actually, because, you know, I know roughly what's involved in doing a live show. I mean, I've done live shows on this podcast. We've done live streams many times. But I don't do it live every week because no way. Just not happening.
It's not easy.
I have watched you do the live show. And what you guys do, what goes on, because the listeners, they only see the end product, right?
Yeah.
They hear the show, they hear a smooth talking DJ, introing songs, backfilling songs, doing station IDs, doing plugs. I mean, the professionalism it's impressive.
Thank you.
It's impressive. As someone who considers himself a student of radio, it's really interesting to watch you guys go, because I know none of you are professionally trained.
Nope, none. We're all self-taught.
And watching you guys perform at a level like this is amazing from this side. But then I have seen you put your show together, and I've seen what goes into you putting your show together. I've seen you do a live show. I think I've seen you do it twice already.
Yeah.
And watching you set up your show and do the recording, and you know, you go into a weird, like a focus zone that I'm jealous of, because I don't have that until about 30 seconds before I start the recorder here. You go into this crazy zone and you just go.
Yeah, it's something that just, I guess, clicks in my brain.
Yeah.
So, like, the music, generally what we do for shows, at least I do for my show, I like to have at least 3 sets of songs set up to go ahead of time of music I feel like listening to.
Sure.
And then that gives us also time for requests to come in case we don't have music, whatever. And I don't know, it's just something that clicks in. Once I go into music mode, I tune out everything else. And that's exactly what happens.
I'm amazed, because I've watched you run mix from behind the scenes. I've actually... So, as a little gift, I got her a Yeti, because you guys know I love my Yetis.
It's really cool.
And because she was the hardest working DJ using a gaming headset on the planet. So I was like, no, I can't have this. I have to get her a Yeti. So I was setting up the Yeti in mix, and I don't know anything about the software you use. And I remember clicking around, and you're like, no, here. And I'm like, wow, okay. I'm not usually the one that knows nothing about the software. I'm usually the one showing someone the software. So watching you, and then watching you go that night with setting everything up and queuing up tracks, and watching you go from track to track and hitting your outs and hitting your ins, I was like, damn, this woman. Like, again, from someone who is not experienced, someone who this isn't in your blood, this isn't something you've been trained to do, but yet there you are doing it.
Yeah, it's cool. Mix is a great program, I can't lie. It definitely makes it a lot easier. Mix literally looks like a mixer, which I think is so cool.
It is really cool. By the way, if you've not seen, Mix is free. I don't think it's open source, but it is free. You can just go look. It's I forgot the full name. I'll put it in you'll have the thing down here.
Yeah.
And you'll have some B-roll of it. But even if you just open it up just to check it out, if you want to consider connecting up to Live 365 and just doing a radio station, if you like music, they handle the rights clearances. You just got to get the files.
And of course, pay the station fees.
Well,
there's that.
Absolutely, but it's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's great because we're all such music lovers. We have a huge library of music, which is we all share with each other, which is really cool too. And does make it a heck of a lot easier for us to do. But it's not an easy thing completely, especially like when you got the live requests coming in, so you got to be quick with it and get it out there and make sure you got the right people saying the right things.
You guys do something very smart. You guys do something smart that a lot of people, especially in our community, podcasters in particular, but makers in general, we tend to work solo. You guys don't work solo.
Nope. It's a complete team effort.
When you guys do a live show, you have one person on air, just running their end of the show. And then you have a support person as a producer.
It's our social media person.
Yeah, but they are definitely more than just
absolutely.
They are
That's
a producer.
What we call them,
you have a producer basically running the show from behind.
Because they're doing all the graphics for posting on social media. They're taking all their requests. They're translating to us. And then if we don't have the song, they have to go out and get the song live while this is all happening. And then they're also...
And you're doing this all on the fly. You're not taking... You don't start taking requests
until
like
we're on air.
No. Yeah, you're on
air.
You're on. Your first set's rolling. The requests are starting to come in. And now that person is responsible for helping you queue them up. And you add them in, and it's like whatever you don't need, they get for you. So you don't
they'll download it, put it in Dropbox, and I download, and we do that. And then also the person behind the scenes is on Instagram storying stuff, tagging people, hashtagging to try to drum up more.
It's organized chaos.
It really is.
It's organized chaos.
It's the best way to put it.
It's
and that's just our live shows. That has nothing to do with, we also do interviews with artists. We've done tons of artist interviews. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're now on TikTok. I don't get TikTok, so don't ask me about that.
Oh, boy.
And we run all of that stuff too on top of all of our pre-records. And I don't know, we have like 7, 8 pre-records that we do a week. Each DJ has different things. We have our R&B hour, which is once a month. We have Power Hour, which is every week. And
somebody does a Power Hour.
Yeah, somebody. We like to get our collaborators, family, friends, to do stuff like that. No, and I think that's the cooler thing is so much of our family and friends are so into it. So almost everybody on the station has had a family member, boyfriend, cousin, parent, sibling do a Power Hour show because they've all gotten into it. And everybody's got different genres, which is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, even, it was interesting because when we decided I was going to do a Power Hour, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do it on? What am I going to do it on? And I kind of came up with the idea. I was like, let me do a pop punk Power Hour because I really like pop punk as a musical genre. I was like, what am I going to do, though? And I was like, you know what? I'll just kind of make the songs vaguely related to each other, and I'll just put them together. And I realized as I was putting that show together, and I think it took me about 2 hours to put the whole show together. But I remember thinking as I was doing it, like, oh my God, I'm doing something that I've always wanted to do. And I can imagine that, that's the feeling for the people that are doing it, where radio is something you've always wanted to do. I mean, the whole reason I podcast is because I wanted to do radio. Yeah. And this is my way of doing radio without having to actually do radio. I mean, it's a wild feeling to just sit there and go, oh my God, I'm doing this. Yeah, like,
it really is. And I can't lie, there's every once in a while when I'm live on air, I'm like, I don't even know how this happened. But it's so cool.
You ever have those moments? You ever have those moments on air where you're just, you're just doing your show, and it's over, and you go, it's over already?
Yes. Many times. Those are my favorite shows, and usually those are the shows where we get tons of requests. And we say all the time, our listeners make our job so much easier. And we're there because we want to play what they want to hear. And sometimes we'll get so many requests in that you're just so busy doing all of this stuff in that I don't even think, like people tell me I said something on there, I'm like, I said that? Because you're just so go.
There have been a couple of times where I was like, yeah, you played that on your show. And you're like, I did. Oh, right, I did. I did. I played that. Yeah, I did play that. It's such a fun. I don't know. A lot of what we do as adults is the stuff we wanted to do as kids, and like as kids, we always play. You play DJ, right? Like you pretend you're on the radio.
You can make your playlists, or back in the day, mixtapes.
So my grandfather, his stereo, and my grandfather always had recording equipment, and his stereo had a mic in, and he had a really nice Shure microphone, and he used to put that on a mic stand for me. And I used to play DJ. Wow. That was my favorite thing to do. Like I would play DJ and I would record. I'm talking, I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I'm doing lead-in tracks, and I'm queuing up songs, and I'm hitting the post, and I'm playing it on one deck and recording my voice and it on the other. And I would have mixtapes that had full audio introductions, and I'm like a kid doing this. And I loved doing it.
It was so much fun.
And then as I grew up, I was listening to more like the talk radio genre. I was kind of into Howard Stern, and then later Opie and Anthony, and then you get into talk radio.
Hence makes sense.
Exactly, it's kind of the origin stories for everyone is where it is, and now it's like, oh my God, I'm doing what I always wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for me because, like I said, my dad was a party DJ, so he had all this DJ equipment. And I remember being probably about 8 years old. He was doing a new brochure because it was the 80s, and that's what you did. You made brochures to try to hand out at parties and stuff. And he set up his entire DJ equipment. Like, he rolled back the carpet and had all this stuff so he could take pictures of his equipment and stuff. And I remember being there and him showing me how to use his mixer and how to go back between the turntables and using his mic. And then me and Christine were my sister, were his audience while he was, spinning music or whatever and taking pictures. It was cool. And that was one of my favorite. That was the moment I remember, like, oh, I like this.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, even up until I was in junior high school, I was very... As far as speaking publicly was not a thing for me.
Me neither.
I could not speak publicly at all. I would have breakdowns anytime that a teacher wanted me to speak in front of the class. I was not that person. But as I've gotten older, it's just like talking, being a host on a podcast. It's not a big deal anymore. It's not... I think this has actually made me, and I'm curious to see if it's for you, because we have similar personalities. We're both shy people. We're both pretty introverted people. I am I always call myself an overcompensating introvert. Like, I am so introverted that if I acted the way I felt internally, people would think I couldn't speak at all and that I was like a mute or something.
Right.
So I overcompensate. I throw myself out there like Mr. Gregarious, complete. It's not that it's phony, it's just that it's a compensation mechanism for me. And I'm wondering if, you find yourself doing something similar.
For me, it's a little bit different because for me, being in small groups of people, I'm completely comfortable. I have no problems talking, but when it's on a grander scale and like, I don't know who's listening or I don't know who's around or I don't know these people.
Like a podcast like this?
Yeah, kind of. Freaks me the heck out.
I just want you to know. You can see how comfortable she is talking to me. You had to see what went on leading up to this. She was cursing me left and right. She's like, I can't believe we're doing this. And
nobody at the radio station is going to be surprised at all.
Exactly.
Because they've gotten me to do so many things that I never thought I'd do. Because we're on social media, so we have to have a presence. We post videos and pictures. And in the beginning, I was just like white knuckling through the whole thing when they're putting stuff like this. And I'm like, I have to look a certain way and talk a certain way. And I guess after doing it for so long, I'm just more used to it. Yeah. It's not that I don't care anymore. I'm just so used to it.
You're used to it.
And the people who follow us and pay attention know who we are. So it's not like you have to put on a show or be anybody that you're not.
Do you find that your interactions and the way you have to deal with your show on a weekly basis, do you find that that's helped you in your personal life become more open to either not necessarily meeting new people, because meeting new people isn't really a thing anymore. You don't meet a whole lot of new people.
Oh, it is when you go on a cruise by yourself.
Well, that's right. So there are situations where you will, but in general, your life is pretty much the people you know and a few ancillary people that are connected to them. But you don't have. I mean, we're normal people. We're not celebrities, so we don't have a crowd of people following us around. Although, if you are looking for someone to follow around, I'm available. But no. But do you find that your communication on the radio has helped you open up more easily in groups of people?
Oh, heck yes. Yeah, it's a lot easier to talk to people that I might not have normally done before because I'm so used to. I sometimes don't know who I'm talking to.
Right.
But it's a lot easier, especially when you're talking to people who are into the same things you are.
Right, you have that.
Of a lot
you already
easier.
have that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know them and you've never spoken to them, you already have that connection. You have at least some thread of connection between you and the person you're talking to.
Yeah, especially at concerts. That's the easiest place to talk to people because you're all there for the same band.
No one's ever gone to a concert and talked to nobody. I don't know that that's even possible to go to a concert.
I'm sure somebody has to.
It's weird. That's weird. You go to a concert and you don't talk to anybody, concerts are probably not for you.
Maybe.
I remember I went to see a concert at Six Flags, and we it was one of the performers was Martina McBride.
Oh wow!
It was the second time I got to see her. I was very happy, and there was a woman standing behind us, and drunk does not even begin to describe this woman. I wasn't drunk. But I was having the best time of my life. And at one point, Martina was singing, and she just comes over to me. She puts her arm around me, and she's going like this.
Wow.
And you know what I did? I put my arm up, and I'm going like this too. Because you know what? We're there for the same reason. We're there to just have a little fun. We're there to do some cool stuff.
Oh yeah, I've made friends with seatmates countless amounts of times.
It's awesome.
It's one of the coolest things, and you don't expect it when it happens, and then you're like, oh, well, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Because they're not judging you.
No.
They don't care. They want, do you like this band? I like this band. Cool. Are we best friends now? Yes, we are.
One of my favorites was I went to a New Kids concert, and it was on their mixtape tour in 2019, and it was a really cool show because they had so many nostalgia bands like Debbie Gibson, Tiffany, Salt and Pepper, Naughty by Nature, and the girl sitting next to me, she was like having a grand old time, and funny enough, the girl she went with was like a bump on a log, didn't want to do anything, and sat through most of the show, so she decided to just be friends, and I was there by myself. And at one point at the towards the end of the show, Debbie Gibson comes out and she starts Lost in Your Eyes. And I guess because I was talking to this girl, found out she's a Joey girl. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to the bathroom now. I don't need to hear this. I'm like, oh, no, you don't want to leave right now. She goes, I don't. I was like, trust me, you don't. With that, so Debbie Gibson starts Lost in Your Eyes, and out comes Joey because they did it on tour as a duet.
Oh.
She lost her mind. She goes, oh, my God, I
You
love
saved
so much.
the whole show for her.
She hugged me. She's like, you are amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, it was really
Those
cool.
are the kinds of stories, but yeah, those are the kinds of stories that...
This is how we get into this stuff.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that bond, I think everybody is looking for everybody, human beings are, contrary to as many people as say they're introverts and loners and whatever, most people aren't, right? Most people, you're looking for your tribe. Even if you're not looking for your immediate group of people that you're going to hold close and dear, you are looking for people of similar mindsets, of similar interests. You don't want to, nobody wants to feel alone in the things that they love.
Exactly.
And especially bonding over something like music, where there's things you can do to really bond over music.
Yep.
It's just the easiest thing to make friends over. Like, especially, like, I've seen how, I've made, I don't know if we would call each other friends necessarily, but I've made some nice connections with the people at your station. By doing the Power Hour, by trying to participate in the community, by supporting them on Patreon.
Yes.
But it's kind of cool. Like, I can already feel like I don't love all the music you guys play.
No, nobody does.
But I don't think that's important.
No. Well, it's actually a running joke on the radio station because there's genres of music that people play that we all don't love either. Like country can be a little bit of a polarizing topic,
It is especially for most of the Northeast.
Yes, exactly. So it's a running joke that, I happen to love country even though I'm from New York and I play it, and some of the other girls are like, oh, groan. And then I have one of our DJs who loves freestyle music, which is not my favorite. And every time I'm like, okay, bathroom break, see you guys later. But it's funny, like some things we absolutely love, but we don't have to love everything, and that's the cool part about it.
Right. And I think what happens in a community the size of the one that you guys have put together is that even when you don't love all the same things, you respect each other enough to respect the thing, even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like nobody. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I hate freestyle also. Like, I despise it.
Yeah.
I was an Italian kid in an Italian neighborhood when freestyle was very popular.
That's a very unpopular opinion of you.
It was torture.
Yeah.
It was torture because I'm a freaking metalhead. I'm listening to GNR. I'm listening to Ozzy Osbourne. I'm listening to, all these bands. Even for a little period of time, I was listening to hardcore gangster rap.
Wow.
But listening to freestyle, I was like, oh, this music. There's nothing wrong with freestyle.
No.
It's just not it's so not my thing that's like, I don't get it. Like, it's one of the few musical styles I don't get. It's catchy. It's got a nice rhythm, and if you hear it at a club, it's probably going to keep you out on the dance floor.
For sure.
Okay, cool. Beyond that, I have no idea what the use of it is. But I respect the people that like it enough to not make fun of it because... Yeah. Honestly, a lot of the stuff I listen to is pretty fun-making warranted.
I'm a New Kids fan. Trust me, I understand.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I think it's really interesting how so many of the people on your station in particular, but even people I've seen tangentially interacting with your station through Instagram, through Facebook, New Kids haven't made an album. At least that the general public knows about. Since
the general public knows about? No.
Right.
They make it for their fans.
Early 90s, right?
Yeah. Well, they've come out with quite a few since they came back together.
True. But the actual general populace thinks New Kids went away in like 1994.
Yes.
Right? So it's interesting to me to see how many people are so actively in love with this band. all these years after their mainstream success, I don't want to say it ended, but it kind of
It did. It absolutely did.
It kind of did. They kind of went to more of the hardcores stuck around, and they consumed whatever they could. It's kind of wild to see a band living on this long after their popularity died, and I use that in quotes.
You're right, because it's definitely quotes. The funny thing is they're together now longer than they were the first time. And they sell more tickets now than they did back then. I mean, obviously back then it was a little bit different, but they're smart about what they do.
They're very smart about what they do.
I can't give them enough credit that they've definitely built a business model that makes perfect sense for what they do, and they bring along as many people as they can. Not for nothing, they honestly brought back the Backstreet Boys. When they brought them on tour, there was only 4 of the guys out of the 5 because one of them's like, I'm not doing this again, until he realized, oh crap, there's actually an audience.
There's a lot of money to be made doing this.
But now look at the Backstreet Boys. They're touring the world, which is something the new kids really can't do by themselves.
Right.
Which I think is really, and that's what I love about them, is that they're smart. And the one thing they say all the time is love your fans.
Yeah.
And
I think that's something that a lot of artists don't.
Yeah,
anymore.
And that's literally what I think helps. Besides the nostalgia thing, like we were kids, and it brings you, like you go to a concert, you get to act like a 15-year-old kid again. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But they do make an effort to be present and to do more music for us, because when they hear, Donnie says it all the time, I heard the fans complaining, like, when are we getting a new album? So we're working on a new album. That's what they do. They always pay attention.
And in exchange, it motivates people like No More Games Radio to... to say, hey, this band is engaged with its fans. Our way of supporting them is to put the word out that they're doing some cool stuff. Like they're doing the cruise in October, and they've been doing these cruises for years. Like, the average outside person like me, until I met you, I had no idea these cruises were even a thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is going to be their 12th cruise.
It's a cruise. It's a freaking cruise with the actual band.
3,000 people and 5 band members.
It's wild. It's such a wild way.
So much fun.
And it's such a big thank you to the people that love them. And it's a big thank you to the people that keep them at the forefront, at least of the community, the blockheads, as you guys call each other. I think it's just really cool. Like, for, a lot of us in this community in particular, we're always looking for a way to not only just to engage our fans and our audience and whatever, we're always looking for a way to keep those people coming back and make them create that connection where they love us. Because if your audience doesn't love you, they're not going to stick around. It doesn't matter if your content's good. They can love your content. They don't love you. They are not sticking around, even if they love your content.
This is true. And they inspire us to do more for our listeners. Like during COVID, the new kids, they decided they wanted to interact with the fans, and everybody was home. They literally did a live stream every single week on Sunday for months during that, because they just wanted to give something. They didn't make money for it. They weren't making anything off of it. They literally just wanted to give something for us to look forward to. So that inspired us, and we decided to have Zoom parties where we watched videos and we all chatted with each other watching silly videos, and we brought hundreds of people together just to have something to do on a Sunday after that.
That's brilliant. It is.
It was fun.
It's brilliant because that's the stuff that's going to keep them interested. It's going to keep your fans interested after the crazy situation changes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I made so many friends during the pandemic.
Yep.
There was a Discord group that I was a part of, and I met so many people that are still friends today. Some of those people have even been guests on this podcast. Some of them are some of the people I'm closest to in my whole life. And these are people who we just got together, and we rallied around being together when you couldn't be together with anyone else. And the fact that a band decided, hey, let's do this for our fans, man, when it's over, it's like, how do I go see these guys? Like, where do I go see these guys? Where do I go? Like, where are they touring? Where are they touring to? And we're starting to see people talking about them doing another tour. And it's like, oh boy. And I have this feeling, unless you make it a girl's day out, that I'm going to be brought to my first ever New Kids concert so I could check that off New Kids Bingo.
There's a very good chance that's going to happen.
Which I'm fine with, by the way. Because I'll tell you what, the one thing I will say. My sister, growing up, super into New Kids, another Jordan fan. I think you two would love each other.
She's a smart girl.
Yeah, she had a mirror on her armoire and the mirror was covered with a Jordan poster. She didn't use the mirror. She used a Jordan poster.
Yeah, my walls, my ceiling, literally was wallpapered with New Kids posters.
And I never, it was weird because as much as my male friends made fun of the New Kids and whatever, I don't think I ever had any animosity toward them. I don't think I ever, like, the songs were catchy. I mean, you've seen how many of the songs I know.
This is true.
You know, it was weird because my sister was into them, and of course I gave her hell.
Of course.
Like, no, New Kids, duh.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, being the dorky big brother that I was. But in the end, they stuck with me, which is kind of an impressive feat to stick with someone who's not a fan.
Well, the amount of people that do tease about it, can you really think you could find somebody around that doesn't know who the New Kids are?
I think it's pretty foregone conclusion that if you were 8 or 9 or older in the mid 80s, you know who the New Kids on the Block are.
Yeah.
Like, there was nobody. I remember it so vividly because one of the ways I was getting all the ladies in junior high school was, I'm going to tell you all my secrets, babe. Here it was.
Can't wait.
So they did a concert. I think it was at the Nassau Mausoleum.
Probably.
Nassau. I always call it that. I reflexively call it that. The Nassau Coliseum.
Yes.
They did a concert there, and it was on pay-per-view.
Yes.
And I recorded it. My sister got it, and I was like, well, I'm not a dummy. I recorded it, and then I told all my female friends,
That's smart.
I have the concert, and I'll give you a copy of the tape. I didn't charge them. Nothing.
That's very smart.
I'm like smooth as silk. I'm like, hey, I got that New Kids joint for you. And they're like, oh, I didn't get to watch it. Oh my God, you're the best. You're the best. Nothing really ever came out of it, but
it was worth a shot.
It was, hey, look, it was smoother than anything my friends were doing at the time.
It's very smart.
And one of them was like, how was the concert? I was like, it was really cool. You had to see Donnie's jacket. All I talked about was Donnie's gold sparkling jacket. And it was like, and I swear, I think that actually endeared me to a couple of females. Because like, oh, this guy really pays attention. Like, he's watching New Kids. I see you.
It's true. There's not a lot of guys who do that, but there are some.
Yeah, you have plenty.
There's plenty of male
You have plenty
fans,
of male friends. It's obviously it skews mostly female.
Of course.
I mean, your hosts are, unless they're doing power hours or you have the metal.
Like I said, we're all female run. 12 women run this station.
12 women run the station. You have an occasional male co-host.
We have a lot of people who do stuff like that.
And you have power hours by stunning podcasters with amazing musical taste and very good radio ability.
And another one coming up soon.
Another one coming up soon.
To be determined when.
To be determined when and to be determined what. I'll just have to ask an AI what I should do because that seems to guide my every path these days.
That thing has come up with pretty interesting stuff.
So it was very funny. So we've talked about AI on this show a lot. And Kathy has gotten to see so much of me playing around with AI. Like for your nieces, we made them some stickers, which I showed last week on the podcast. But you know, we came up, we were talking about something one day and I was like, what do you think of this as a show idea?
You messaged that to me and I had no idea.
And the AI wrote the whole thing. She had no idea. I just gave her the AI pitch and she goes, this is brilliant. I said, you want to have your mind blown? This was written by an AI. It was still my idea.
Shocking.
It was still my idea, but the whole plug...
Well, it went into complete depth.
Yeah, everything.
That's what was shocking to me.
It was, and you know, because as makers, especially people, when you're immersed in this community, you kind of forget how much of what we do is interesting to people who aren't so much in the community.
Yeah.
And your reactions to the stuff that I've done with AI since we've met has been amazing. Like, it's
Mind
so
blown.
much fun. Like, I'll sit here with my laptop in my lap and go, what do you think of this? And she'll be like, holy crap, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, we made those stickers probably in about an hour last Sunday.
I don't even know if it was that long.
Yeah, when we was like, what do they like? Okay, well, let's do some designs. And I took them into Photoshop and cleaned them up and printed them out, cut them on the Cricut.
And P.S., they love them.
They did love them.
They absolutely went nuts over them.
It's amazing. We're in amazing times, and I'm starting to think, like, what's going to happen? And I've had this thought, especially since knowing you, what's going to happen when AI can, like, speak?
I don't know. And you know, it's funny you say that because I remember hearing years ago Will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas. He said, and this was before AI was obviously a thing, this had to be 10 years ago, he said this, he was on a radio interview, and he said that he thinks electronic voices are going to take over music one day.
I think.
And the DJ completely vehemently disagreed, which I like to believe so too. I think there's a level of human interaction that is necessary for music to really be it.
Sure.
But he was convinced that we're going to see a lot more electronic things in the future. I think
that's a given. I think that's actually pretty accurate. And I think what you started to see, and for those of you not in the New York area, I mean, her and I are both from New York. Actually, fun fact, for the first 4 years of our life, in 1976 to 1980, we lived about 5 minutes apart from each other.
If that.
Didn't even know that.
Nope.
Because when I showed her my childhood home, she goes, "No way you lived there." And she swipes on Google Maps. She barely has to go another screen. And she zooms in on one spot. She goes, "That's my childhood home."
Yep.
And it was like, and she goes, "And those are the trees that were planted for me and with me and my sister's names."
Yep.
It was literally, in fact, yesterday, when you told your sister where I used to live near Pitkin Avenue in Queens, your sister went, "What?"
Like her jaw hit the floor.
She was very surprised. But where was I going with that?
The AI is where we started with Will I Am and Black Eyed Peas.
So yeah, so if you live in New York, thank you. You're a better host than I am. If you live in New York, you remember Jack FM. Jack FM was a big deal in New York. And what was big about Jack FM wasn't that they had changed WCBS's format, right? Because that's not a big deal. Changing formats happens, especially in a major radio market, it happens all the time. But what they did was they changed WCBS's format and they got rid of all
I remember
DJs.
that.
They had no DJs.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And what was running the station was a computer.
Yeah.
And there was no DJ voices. It was just the computer just consistently churning in what's popular, what's not popular. And it was running basically an entire radio station by algorithm.
Yeah.
And that was, Jack FM was 20 years ago?
Easily.
Right? So if you think about 20 years ago, this was happening. Now AI can actually say what's popular in this radio market. What are people in this radio market listening to? What are the top 10 songs? What songs have been overplayed? And it can intermingle the songs correctly. It can essentially take most of the job of a program director now for a radio station.
Yeah.
Again, what's going to happen when it can intro a song? What's going to happen when it can do a live read of an ad? Because no radio person, I mean, I've done live reads for this podcast. No one likes doing live reads.
Nope.
What happens when you can feed it the ads and the AI will you just cue the AI on and it comes on and it does a live read for you that you don't have to do, that's perfect to what the client wants.
Yeah.
All this stuff is
just amazing to think about.
Like, radio stands to be changed drastically because radio as it is not in a good place.
No.
I don't listen to the radio. In fact, yesterday as we were driving home from Philly, your phone was dying, and it's like, oh my God, we have to listen to the radio.
Yeah.
It was like, ew.
And sadly, we listen to CBS.
Ironically enough. Which, by the way, when the oldie station starts playing the songs you grew up on?
Yeah, that's why I say sadly. The first time I heard London Beat on the oldie station, it really hurt my feelings. I don't know why that was the song that bothered me, but that one I was like, I cannot.
I don't remember what I was doing, but I heard a Guns N' Roses song on the radio. I heard Guns N' Roses, I was like, it feels like the good old days.
No,
and
not
then the
when
station,
it's on your parents' radio station.
Then the station ID comes on and it's 101 WCBS FM New York. And I'm like, oh God.
Yep.
Oh God. I'm becoming my parents. I'm listening to the oldie station
to
hear the music I like.
Ironically enough, I swore when I was a kid I was never going to be that person.
Oh, totally. Well, so there's studies that find that the music that was popular when you graduated high school becomes the music that's the music of your life. Yeah. That doesn't mean you never listen to anything new, but what it does mean is that that's the music in most cases. Obviously, some people go to college and they get really into, some underground thing. In New York, we have the benefit of having music everywhere.
Yeah.
So you're obviously exposed to a lot more music, but the general consensus is that the music that you hear when you graduate high school is the music that pretty much sticks with you forever. And I really am having a hard time finding a counter argument to that.
No, it's absolutely, it's like your real formative years of your life. And that's the kind of stuff where you start becoming an adult and a person and start seeing the world in a different way. And I think that's the stuff that
it's kind of when your style stops being your parents' style.
Exactly.
I feel like I think that's the big thing. Like when I kind of shifted into listening to metal and away from what at the time was adult contemporary, it wasn't I wasn't rebelling.
No.
It was just, this is the music I like.
Yeah.
You know, and granted, there are times now where you and I will be, you know, doing whatever, and I'll bust out a song that my parents listen to or my grandparents listen to. How many times have we sung, just randomly sitting there, just you start singing a song from the 1940s, right? That wasn't my era. It was 35 years before I was born.
Can't remember why you walked into the kitchen, but you can remember song lyrics from 40 years ago.
Pretty much. Did I need a sandwich or did I need to think of some Perry Como?
Right.
You know? But Como, not Cuomo. No.
Oh, that's a whole different person.
Cuomo's a very different person from Perry Como, but yeah, I'm very excited for what you guys are doing. I'm enthusiastic about what you guys have accomplished, and I've talked about, you know, you and the station and watching you do what you do on here a few times, and it's not just me shamelessly plugging the woman I love. It's me being amazed at what you guys do.
Yeah.
Because I find what I do difficult. I do. As much as it's natural, it's not easy. Right?
No.
And I think there's something to be said for something that's, you know, not something you have to think about, but still something that's not easy to do. And I look at what you do and go, I can't do that. I mean, maybe I could. It would take me some practice to get as good at it as you guys all are, which, by the way, that's the crazy part. You're all this good at it.
This is true.
But
I say all the time I'm probably the weakest link on the station, but
which is
not true. I know, but we've got a lot of people that are fantastic with it, and we love it. But it's truly a labor of love because it is a heck of a lot of work. Is
there anything that you want to accomplish aside from being on the air with this radio station? Like, what do you like? If you had to say, these are my goals, because I know you're not the station manager. I know all that, but what would make you happy to see out of the station and out of in the future, something, not even something necessarily has to change, but where would you like this to be for you to be like, whoa, I am really happy with the way this is going? Or are you happy right now?
No, I'm happy right now, but the goal is always a bigger community. We want to widen our net as far as we possibly can.
And you're not just talking about listeners when you say that.
Not at all.
It's an important distinction.
Listeners definitely are a big deal.
Audience is important.
Yes. But community as in social media, like our Facebook community, bringing in as more collaborators as we can. Like we do this thing, which I forgot to mention quarterly, we call NKOTB Block Action, which is literally, let's say 10 different collaborators who all do different types of content creating. And we do a quarterly show where we do it in Zoom and we invite all of these people in, and we'll have like a couple hundred people, and each content creator comes up with their own platform and we all promote it. And like when we did ours, we'll do trivia, we'll give away prizes and stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing that we want to keep focusing on, is just bringing as many people together to have some fun. I love that
you guys, and this is why I think you guys are going to make it, right? Like, these kids are doing good. But this is why I think you guys are going to make it, because you've differentiated between audience and community. Because a lot of people get the two kind of, I don't want to say get it twisted because that's corny. That's not what's happening. But they intermingle the terms so much that they think that the audience is the community. There's a lot more people in your audience than in your community. It's always going to be that way, right? I mean, there's way more people that listen to this podcast than interact with it.
Yeah.
And I like the way you guys I like the way you just put that, where you're more about growing the community. You want to increase the level of interaction. You want to increase the connections with the people you work with and the people you play music for.
That's always the first thing on our mind, is what can we do for the people who follow us and how can we make this more interesting for them? That's always our number one ask whenever we try to do anything, is how do we get more people involved and how do we bring more stuff to them that they enjoy?
I think one thing you guys do a really good job of, especially, like the stuff you do on Fridays, but your Facebook page is active. The community, like, it's not heavy, hardcore, cerebral stuff. I mean, sometimes, obviously it can be, but I think what makes your community as good as it is that it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to be in.
It's all inclusive. Be as silly as you like.
Sometimes, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm misreading this, and if I am, cut me off, stop, smack me in the head, whatever you feel like you need to do. You have carte blanche. But I feel like a lot of times people think that in order for something to be worth engaging in, it has to be heavy, super cerebral, very deep. And that's, to an extent, that's going to be true, right? But I think there's something to be said for just doing something for the fun and the passion of it.
And that's exactly why we do it. Life can be hard all by itself. We
Sure.
don't need to add to it. Our whole point is to give you a little bit of an escape from that. Just to have some fun, laugh. You know what I say? Find a reason to smile every single day.
Find a reason to smile every single day. That's why you're called DJ Smiles.
Yes.
I love, since getting to know you and finding out your DJ name was DJ Smiles, I'm like, damn, they could not have given this woman a more appropriate name. Like, it's perfect because you're a very upbeat, positive person.
I try.
I think, to the extent that you're able, I think everybody has moments where that's a big ask.
Yeah.
But I think what your channel, what your station does, I think what you all do as DJs, I think bringing back that nostalgia for everybody, I think that all goes a very long way to being the musical hugs that you guys always talk about.
We're all the same. We're all like that. We all like to enjoy life. We like to have fun, and we like to bring as much of that to. That's why we all like to interact in this. It's not just for the people who follow us. Like,
sure.
We're all in the community too, answering and being silly and whatever we can.
Let your hair down a little bit.
This is true.
Let your hair down a little bit. It's okay to let your hair down. I mean, I let my hair down regularly, as you can tell, because I have, beautiful flowing locks, and I hate to keep them tied up. We have been going for almost an hour. I just want you to know we have been going, as I looked at the program clock just now, we've been going for 56 minutes.
He's totally going to say, I told you so.
Anyway, not going to say I told you so, sweetie, because I love you. Why don't we get on to, and yes, I know I'm looking at my phone because I'm not sitting in front of my computer, but I need the list of people that support the show financially, which we will do after Things of the Week like we always do. But this week we were trying to come up with, she was trying to come up with a Thing of the Week, and I didn't have one, so I had an idea. I had an idea for Thing of the Week. We are going to do the first ever joint Thing of the Week. Because,
I get to be the first.
Yeah, you are. You're my first, baby. Love you. But we're going to do something really cool because we did something super fun today.
We did.
And there's a place that you've probably been, but if you haven't been there recently, I highly recommend you go back.
Immediately.
We went today. We had date night.
A date night.
At Dave & Buster's.
And it was so much fun. Talk about being kids.
Oh my God. If you haven't been to Dave & Buster's in a while, I know you probably have an impression of what it is, and you're probably not wrong if you haven't been there in a while. But they've been renovating all of their restaurants over the course of the last couple of years, and the one nearest to me, which is in Palisade Center in Nyack, New York, is one of the newer format restaurants. And let me tell you something. First of all, the menu. Let's talk about the food for a second. The menu's exceptional.
Yeah.
And
it was surprising.
We only got to see the lunch menu. We didn't get to see the full menu, which is the dinner menu. But the food was incredible. It was delicious.
Surprisingly so. And you've told me this a couple of times that it's gotten better. I'm like, okay, it's still Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly, I shouldn't even say surprised. More shocked.
Shocked is a better word because I had seen the new menu a few times and I hadn't gotten around to going there. And today was the first time I actually got to eat from the new menu. It was wild.
Yeah.
It was wild. So she had fish and chips. I had a cheesesteak. Both were awesome. We had Creole shrimp dip.
Oh my God.
For an appetizer. It was amazing. Okay?
It's worth going there for that, just saying.
It really is. I think if you just get the shrimp dip and then go play video games, you're probably going to have a good day. But we went and we spent, what did we spend? About $75 on video games, just playing games today.
Which we didn't expect to spend the entire amount.
So we go in and we both wanted to get a card because you don't use coins anymore at Dave & Buster's. You use chips.
I think that might be my favorite new thing. The ticket on your card.
The tickets on the card is great. You don't have to sit there and pull tickets out of the machine anymore because the tickets are all on your card. But the awesomeness of the game selection now is so good. It's so good.
If you could have seen my face, I literally walked there like, oh my God.
Yeah, she was overwhelmed.
I was completely overwhelmed.
So if you Dave & Buster's in the past always had arcade games.
Yeah.
They had a lot of coin pushers.
Yeah.
And like boring, maybe not boring because they were kind of fun. But you know that spinny thing where you got a dome and there's a light that goes around. You got to stop the light.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even see one of those today. Now all the games are all modern arcade games, and I mean both arcade games and skill games. And the skill games were a
They
lot
were
of
cool. And my favorite thing is a lot of them are like the old school carnival games that you used to play, like and win prizes, like the ring toss, and all of that stuff. The coolest thing I think we didn't play, but we're gonna have to, was Hungry Hungry Hippo.
fun. Yeah,
That was fascinating.
that looked like a lot of fun.
Giant Hungry Hungry.
Yeah, you
Hippo.
literally
It does look like a lot of work.
giant
though.
hungry hippos that you actually sit on the back of and you pull the thing.
Yeah.
It looked like super fun.
It was
Like,
adorable.
it was a great experience. We had an awesome time.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend if you're into, because I've talked about Arcade Matt on this podcast before, and I talked about the coin game.
Who you've now got me obsessed with.
Oh yeah, she's obsessed with Arcade Matt. It's really funny. But I learned a lot from Arcade Matt, and I applied it today. And on one of the claw machines, I got my first win ever, and I won 4 prizes. I won 4. This is 4, not this. This is 4. 4 prizes on one of the claw machines today because of the stuff I learned from him and what to look for and prizes that are achievable. And it was a super fun time. So.
And because of that, you've won 4 times more the tickets than I did.
Oh, yeah. So one of the games, Arcade Matt, Dizzy Chicken, which I've watched him play a million times, and I kind of knew what you had to do. And on the second play ever, I hit the 1,000 ticket bonus.
Yeah.
Never played the game before. So
It was really, really cool.
it's a fun place. It's much better than it used to be. Give it a second shot. So that is going to be our joint thing of the week. And you know what makes having date night possible?
Subscribers.
Financial supporters. Boy,
Yes.
you're good. See, Radio Pro, guys. Radio Pro. The financial supporters for this podcast include Matthew Serio of Artigiano Serio, Big Al Schultz of New York Woodworks, Tori Decker of Tori Did It, Ed Swanson, last week's guest, from Ed's Clocks and More, Jake Drews of Make with Jake, Megan Chris from Onyx Designs Woodwork, Christian Neary of Warren Works, Jeff Stein, a.k.a. A Weird Guy, Kim and Garrett from Kim and Garrett Make It, Rory Langefeld of RLO Woodworks and DIY, Robert J. Keller, Rebecca Cole from Beck C Designs, Brian Arsenault, the Seven Hills Maker, Lars Coleman of Colorado Multicraft, Dave Bauer of Dave Bauer Art, Nick Birchtold of Birchtold Design Build, Jeremy Spees, Mike from Pixels to Prototype, Donald LeBlanc from Fun with Woodworking, Grant Alexander from the Clamp Podcast, Brad Harrison of Brad's Customs, and Billy Polton of Polton Projects. Thank you to everyone that supports the show financially. I could not do this show without, I mean, I could, but I probably wouldn't do this show without you. But we'll just go with I couldn't do the show because you guys are important. If you can't support the show financially, that's fine. A review, share the show, tell someone about it, suggest a guest. Anything you can do to support the show is greatly appreciated because all that support adds up and it enables me to bring guests and a show to you week after week.
I highly recommend it. He's fantastic.
You heard the lady? I didn't tell her to say that,
Nope.
by the way. I didn't tell her to say that. In fact, not even going to lie, getting started with this, I'm like, she's going to hate me after this, that I dragged her into this. But I
Kicking
think
and screaming.
kicking, yeah, you were really, she was not happy, by the way. She was not happy. In fact, when I put her lav on, she's like, I got to wear a lav? I'm like, yeah.
I've literally never worn one in my life.
Well, now you have.
Now I have.
Now you have. It's as if you've been on an important TV program.
It's kind of important.
It is kind of important. But I appreciate every one of you that listens. I will have all of Kathy's links in the show notes so that you can go follow her. You can go listen to No More Games Radio. I do highly recommend it. It's not just because I love this woman and she is the love of my life and I'm happier than I've been in a very long time. It's because they actually do put out quality stuff. And I wouldn't have her on just to plug her stuff. I can.
This is true.
I mean, not for nothing. I can do that. It's my freaking show, right? But I'm not doing that.
I know that.
I'm doing it because I genuinely believe in what you guys are doing. And I wanted to give you a chance to tell people about it because I think when you meet the faces behind the thing becomes a lot more tangible. And you are one of the faces behind a very good thing. And I'm very excited for what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you because I think you're amazing. And had I heard your show before we started dating, we probably would have started dating anyway because it's a big turn on when your woman's on the microphone. I'm just saying. It's also cool when it's like you could talk about recording equipment and you both get excited.
This is true.
So I will have all of Kathy's links in the show notes. Please go follow her. Go follow No More Games Radio. There's always something going on. Even when they're not doing a live show, they have what they call their mixtape, which is basically a loop of songs that play. And
24/7, no commercials.
there's no commercials. Yeah. Hey, guys, no commercials.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get no commercials radio? anywhere. You don't even get that on Sirius XM anymore.
No.
Everything has commercials. They don't. So go listen to them, go support them, say hi to these amazing women who are doing an amazing thing and creating something wonderful, both for themselves and for the community.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, it's not like you're going to leave after we stop recording, so
Nope.
that's good. Thank you for listening, and I will be back again next week. I don't know who the guest is going to be, but then again, I rarely do. Does it even matter? There's going to be a show next week, and that's all you really care about anyway. So thanks for joining me. I will catch you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.